Hi everybody, today is the celebration of Epiphany, so what better day to delve into the analysis of this fascinating and thought-provoking theme. The name Epiphany derives from the Greek epiphania, which can be translated as manifestation, and for the Catholic religion, it represents the moment when Jesus, after his birth, manifests himself to the peoples of the world. The manifestation of Jesus is described to us with the episode according to which the three wise men, coming from the east, following the comet star, arrive at the cave where Jesus was born and bring gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In You Will Have Another God, I discuss episodes where theology deceives believers with senseless stories, misleading their good faith. It's one of many, exposing the deception within theology in the book. Let's analyze how it was done. It's important to note that this episode is found only in Matthew's Gospel. The other three evangelists just don't touch the subject. Secondly, the common belief that there were three magi is completely wrong. In fact, the Gospel of Matthew only mentions magi but does not specify their exact number. Perhaps the number 3 is a result of an interpolation due to the three gifts they brought: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In any case, even such interpolation would be totally absurd, as the number of magi is completely independent from the number of gifts brought. There could have been only 2 magi to bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh, or 4 magi to bring 50 gifts. No one can therefore deduce the number of magi based on the number of gifts. But let's take a moment to understand who these visitors were. If we read the Gospel of Matthew, we must also debunk the fact that they were kings. In fact, Matteo only talks about magi. Therefore, it is safe to remove the first 2 words from the sentence "three wise men" without altering its meaning. They are magi, they are not 3 and not kings, or at least these characteristics are not mentioned in the text, so we don't know. In fact, the official online encyclopedia of the Catholic Church, Catopedia, tells us that they were later called kings because of the influence of the book of Isaiah in verses 63. For those who don't know, the book of Isaiah is one of the prophetic books of the Bible whose final composition dates back to around the 5th century BC, but whose author is officially completely unknown. Let us delve into the teachings of the book of Isaiah and uncover its profound insights. Actually, the verse in question explicitly states, "Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn." This would be the great prophecy of Isaiah, who, 500 years in advance, accurately predicted the arrival of the Magi kings at the manger after Jesus Christ's birth, as mentioned in the scriptures, fulfilling the prophecy from the prophet Isaiah. Too bad that, as frequently happens, even in this case we are faced with a huge falsehood of theology. In fact, the paragraph of the book of Isaiah that contains this verse is titled "Glory of Jerusalem, Splendor of Jerusalem." We are not discussing Jesus, but the city of Jerusalem. This becomes clear when we read the following verses, which cannot be attributed to Jesus, but are compatible with the city of Jerusalem. It is important to note that we are referring to the city of Jerusalem, not Jesus. Actually, the next verses say, "Herds of camels will cover your land, dromedaries of Midian and Ephah, and all from Sheba will come bearing gold and incense and proclaiming the praise of the Lord." A city can be invaded, but a person cannot be invaded. Therefore, it becomes even more evident that we are referring to Jerusalem. Verse 10 mentions, "Foreigners will rebuild your walls, and their kings will serve you. Though in anger I struck you, in favor I will show you compassion. Your gates will always stand open, they will never be shut day or night, so that people may bring you the wealth of the nations, their kings led in triumphal procession. For the nation or kingdom that will not serve you will perish, it will be utterly ruined." If after these verses someone still doubts, let's check verse 14. "The children of your oppressors will come bowing before you. All who despise you will bow down at your feet and will call you the city of the Lord, Zion of the Holy One of Israel." It therefore seems clear that we are talking about the city of Jerusalem, as the title of the paragraph actually says. This is yet another episode that demonstrates how to uncover the deception behind theology. One does not need to be a particular scholar, but simply read even just the sacred texts, the official ones of the Catholic Church, while keeping one's own neurons with them. Now let's try to understand who these magi were. In the book Avrai, altro, I defined Jesus as the avatar of the Sun God, precisely because the events and various episodes reported by theology regarding the life and main events of Jesus perfectly reflect the characteristics of the much older sun god cults, among these the Persian god Mithra, which was then Romanized with the Roman god Mithras. The name Magi is not random, because with the term Magi, the exponents of the Persian Zoroastrian cult were unequivocally defined, from which the cult of Mithra then derived. The origin of the Magi is confirmed by Matthew himself, who explicitly states they came from the east. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. To the east of Jerusalem are Babylon, one of the centers for Zoroastrian worship, and further east, Persia. Another common image of the episode of the three wise men is the comet star we were talking about earlier. Also, in this case, we are faced with something completely unsubstantiated. In reality, the Gospel of Matthew does not mention a star at all, and certainly not of a comet. Today, we perceive it as a comet due to Giotto's work. Impressed by the comet's passing, Giotto sought to capture it in his art. Giotto's fascination with Halley's comet in 1300 AD inspired his painting in the Scrovegni Chapel in Padua, depicting this vision 3 years later. Until then, art depicted the celestial body as a fixed star, without its famous tail or mane, missing the iconic details. From Giotto's interpretative choice, it became common for artists to depict her with flowing hair. Even today, we discuss a comet star, but it's incorrect to refer to it as such due to its nature. The two terms are absolutely not comparable. Comets are small asteroid formations in rapid motion and are predominantly composed of ice and gas and do not shine with their own light, while stars are massive fixed celestial bodies that emit their own light. Moreover, we cannot assume it was a star. The original text of the Gospel of Matthew in Greek actually reads "Eidomen garautu ton astera." The mention of astro in your dictionary confirms that it refers to celestial bodies, such as stars, planets, and dwarf planets. In fact, astrology does not only deal with stars, but with all celestial bodies. This aspect is crucial when considering the recurring astronomical event, the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, visible precisely at that time. In the 7th century BC, a rare astronomical event occurred, the triple conjunction of Saturn-Jupiter-Sun at the start of the astrological age of Pisces. This event was highly specific and exceptionally rare. It would be intriguing to explore different aspects of conjunctions, but not here. However, we must note that ancient Arab and Persian astrologers have always connected such events to important steps and changes for humanity. In addition to ancient astrologers, there's also the opinion of Kepler, an important astronomer known for laws governing planetary movements. Kepler himself observed the triple conjunction in 7 BC, which is a significant event, and it was him who connected the story to the event of the visit of the Magi to Bethlehem. The Magi were astrologers from Persian and Zoroastrian culture. They had a deep understanding of the cyclicity of conjunctions, even if the cadence of these events spanned hundreds or thousands of years. Zoroaster, also known as Zarathustra, was known as a prophet whose return was awaited for the salvation of humanity. Look, just as he was considered the Christ, whose long-awaited return is still anticipated. The triple conjunction in Pisces of 7 BC was an event of such rarity and exceptionality that it should have represented a significant change for humanity. It is therefore very likely that the Magi saw in this very rare astronomical phenomenon the announcement of the imminent return of their savior, the prophet Zoroaster Zarathustra. Even the date of 7 BC is perfectly plausible and consistent with the temporal placement that Matthew himself makes regarding the birth of Jesus Christ. The Gospel of Matthew reports the well-known episode of the massacre of the innocents carried out by Herod the Great. Historically, he died in the year 4 BC, aligning the triple conjunction with the historical moment and being compatible with the massacre of the innocents that occurred at that time. Another reason why we believe the event in Matthew is related to the conjunction, not a wandering star in the Gospel of Matthew. Stars were constantly observed by wise men, astrologers, philosophers, and the people. A star that had moved so quickly in the sky and then stopped at a specific point would have immediately become a topic of discussion and citation in dozens of texts, which instead did not happen. There is indeed no philosophical, historical, or astronomical text that speaks of such a significant event. Only Matteo talks about it, Even the other three evangelists completely ignore him, not mentioning him at all. The Magi thoroughly studied the movements, conjunctions, and stars in great detail, because it was their duty. They knew about this phenomenon, unrelated to the star that appears and instructs to follow until it stops in the sky. By the way, this star should have been seen by anyone, not just by them. You can easily understand the absurdity of the narrative if you just think about the fact that the star would then have had to stop exactly vertically above the manger. Just try to envision gazing at a star in the sky and endeavoring to journey across the Earth's expansive terrain until you reach a point directly beneath it. Travel for kilometers and kilometers, but never find yourself perfectly under the star. The star's distance from Earth makes it impossible to pinpoint a precise location on the surface due to its enormity. The only instance in which the account narrated by Matteo could have occurred would have been if the star had journeyed a couple of meters above the surface of the Earth. But in that case, Matteo would not have been able to tell us anything, because both the baby Jesus, humanity, and the planet would have been completely carbonized by the star. We explained how Matthew's Gospel is the only one to mention the Magi. We don't mention three Magi or their royal status in the text at all. Likewise, we have shown how it was impossible for the star to have moved to indicate to the Magi the point where God was born. It is clear that in the general opinion there is a big mistake, but let's try to understand this mistake's origin, and we will find that it is still connected to the worship of the sun. The Orion constellation, also known as the Great Hunter, has been worshipped by different cultures throughout history, particularly the Egyptians. It consists of the belt of Orion. This belt is made up of three aligned stars that are traditionally called the Three Kings. The names of the stars are Mintaka, Delta Orionis, Alnitak, Zeta Orionis, Alnilam, and Epsilon Orionis in the Orion constellation. By following the path from the Three Kings to Sirius before the sun rises, you will know when the god will be born, the sun god. In conclusion, it is important to note that the Epiphany holiday was placed on dates that coincided with previous pagan holidays, which was done arbitrarily. A clear example of this is the fact that on the same day the celebration of Befana was dedicated, whose name always derives from the corruption of the Greek Epiphania into Bifania and then Befana, but whose characteristics still date back to those of the previous solar cult, for which the rebirth of nature was celebrated 12 days after the birth of the sun god, who, we remember, had died during the winter solstice period, that is, on December 21st. Not coincidentally, even for Christianity, Jesus was born on December 24th night. As the sun god dies on December 21st, which is the day of the winter solstice, when the day is the shortest of the year, and then is reborn about 3 days later on the 24th. In Christianity, Jesus was assigned the same dates as the previous solar cults, aligning their respective calendars and traditions. Also, the fact that the sun dies on December 21st and then is reborn on the 24th, that is 3 days later, is a perfect parallel with the 3 days of Christ's resurrection. In the book, I explain all the recurrences that have been detected from paganism and applied to the worship of Christ, among which there are, for example, also Easter itself and the Immaculate Conception. The Befana, who brings gifts, is simply the embodiment of Mother Nature awakening and beginning to bring forth fruits and harvests. After this long explanation, I hope to have been helpful in providing you with personal reflections and understanding how even in this case theology has worked to try to undermine the ancient cult of the sun god, building upon it the myth of Jesus Christ. If you are interested in my in-depth studies on the Catholic religion, you can find them in my book Avrai, altro. I can only wish you a happy occurrence of the triple conjunction Saturn-Jupiter-Sun, reminding you to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell if you want to be notified as soon as I publish new videos that I hope may be of interest to you. Goodbye, everyone.